Well, last night's surprise visit to Ukraine by Chancellor Merkel and President Hollande came on the same day the US Secretary of State was also there, reiterating America's support to Kiev. As for Russia, John Kerry was not mincing his words.
Russia, with impunity, seemingly, has acted to cross that border at will, with weapons, with personnel, with the instruments of death.
But when John Kerry was asked for evidence of Russian forces fighting in Ukraine, he handed the question over to the Ukrainian Prime Minister.
Mr. Prime Minister, is it true that, as the Kremlin just said today, there are no Russians on the ground in...
It seems to me that the only country who strongly deny clear military Russian boots on the ground is Russian Federation and personally President Putin. If they need, I can give them my glasses.
Well, Russia insists it's not part of the conflict in eastern Ukraine. Political analyst Chris Banbury thinks if the US did have clear and concise proof of Russian troops in the region, they would have made it public by now.
There are Russian nationals involved in fighting with the People's Republic of Donetsk, but I don't think there's evidence that Russian forces have crossed the border or are interfering in the thing. And I think if there was any evidence, the Americans, who are obviously keeping this whole region under very tight surveillance, if they had that evidence, they'd have released that evidence immediately, because they are desperate to try and show that the Russians are the people to blame for this and that Vladimir Putin is the people to blame for this. And John Kerry was there in Kiev talking about providing defensive weapons to Ukraine. I'd like to know what defensive weapons are. I mean, what's the difference between offensive and defensive weapons, but providing that weaponry for Ukraine. And we're seeing a very confused situation, because welcoming the ceasefire, I welcome the arrival of François Hollande and Angela Merkel in both Kiev and Moscow. But we also see NATO suddenly announcing it's going to be setting up bases in 8 NATO countries bordering the former Soviet Union.